Today on Locked On Canadians, the Habs are to honor Markov, but first, Sidney Crosby made some comments that have everybody in consternation.
You are Locked On Canadians, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm not really sure if what I said earlier meant anything, but either way, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadians. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting fanduel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Laura Sab, also known as the Active Stick. And I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. And today, Ian, we're going to talk about Sidney Crosby's comments, his agent's comments. Everybody's kind of in, a little bit, I want to say, like, there was a bit of a stir. At the very least, there was a bit of a stir. The Montreal Canadiens are finally honoring Andrei Markov, somebody who I think is very much beloved in this generation of Habs fans. And then finally, we're going to do some tidbits about rookie camp and what to watch for. And really quick before we start, I wanted to share something from one of our listeners. This is Mark C., who shared with us the other day in his hockey game. He paid tribute to Ken Dryden with the Ken Dryden famous pose. And the picture isn't super clear, but I want to show it to our YouTube listeners. And that's our good friend here, good friend of the show. And we just really love things like this. And I really appreciate that you shared this with us. We love when you guys share your hockey fandom and your love of the Canadiens with us. Please keep it going. And also, like Mark, please let us know if it's okay for us to share the story or the photo, or if you'd rather Ian and I keep it to ourselves. Anyway, let's get into today's comments. Now, when Sidney Crosby was here for the Four Nations, he talked a lot about growing up as a Montreal Canadiens fan. The energy and the atmosphere at that time was incredible here in Montreal. It always is. It always is. Let's be fair. But, he really seemed to lean into it and give the fans that tidbit. We talk so much about Sidney Crosby growing up a Habs fan. However, I don't think I've let you talk yet, Ian.
That's all right. I'm letting you cook right now. It's kind of fun to watch you you just pulled the ripcord on a Beyblade and I'm just kind of watching you go.
At least tell the listeners how you are. How about that?
I'm fine. I was Googling consternation because that's how you started the show. Feelings of anxiety or dismay, typically it's something unexpected. I think you got that right. So we're fine.
All right. So then NHL Media Day or whatever, the media week, whatever is going on in Vegas right now. And Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic, who is very dialed in, very well respected as a purveyor of accurate information, to be fair, did not actually say anything that amounted to Sidney Crosby coming to Montreal. He just put together a bunch of stuff that it would be fun to say, right? That would be fun to say. I envision.
Isn't that what we do?
We do, but I envision Pierre LeBrun writing that. Just
there's our $7.99 a month. What's going on there?
Call us The Athletic. Either way, so he brought it up with Sidney Crosby. I have the article pulled up from The Athletic. There's just a couple of things that I do I want to mention from that piece, and it's mostly that Crosby's aware, this is quoting from the article, he's aware, especially when he's back home in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, where there are plenty of Canadiens fans, hi guys, that is what the Montreal market is dreaming of these days, getting their hands on number 87 somehow, someday. He said, I get it. Trust me, growing up a Montreal fan and being from not too far from there, I understand how passionate they are. Whether it's those experiences or guys that have played there, or playing there in the playoffs or Four Nations, all these different things, I get it. And then he talked about how, we're crazy, obviously. He said it in a much nicer way than I just did. And then he said something like, I think when he said, to know that a team like that wants you, right? And Pierre LeBrun is kind of elaborating on that, saying he thinks that, it's more the fan base than the team. But let's be honest, if Sidney Crosby wanted to play in Montreal, it's dereliction of duty not to do something about that.
Yeah, and that's sort of, I'll say my position on this is that we have no reason to believe at this moment that Sidney Crosby wants to leave Pittsburgh. We just don't. Like
Yes.
this article. Sidney Crosby says very plainly, like I understand the noise. I like playing in Pittsburgh.
Right. And he's always said that. He has never once
Right.
not said that like he loves Pittsburgh, he loves playing in Pittsburgh, things like that. But and even LeBron acknowledges that it's a long shot. But then Sidney Crosby's agent jumps into the fray, and I'm gonna let you cook in a second. Because I found out about this article, first of all, by hearing from angry Penguins fans. And they felt that at the very least, Sidney Crosby's agent, Pat Brisson, should have dismissed the speculation or dismissed all of this and not thrown fuel onto the fire. And essentially, the idea is, so this is the quote. Well, it's a reality, not Sidney Crosby to Montreal, but the possibility that he might leave Pittsburgh. It's a reality. First of all, he's been so consistent for 20 years. He had another great season last season. He just keeps going. The comparison is Tom Brady. And we want Sidney to hopefully be in the playoffs every year. We want him to hopefully win another cup or two. So each year that the team he's playing for fails to make the playoffs, it creates a lot of speculation. So there's a lot more, and that the speculation is not going away. What Pat Brisson did was fan the flames. Like Sidney Crosby played this perfectly. He's being coy. He's not saying I will never play in Montreal. He's keeping our interest in him. He's giving us, I think in dating it's called breadcrumbing. He's breadcrumbing us, the Montreal fan base, and possibly even the Colorado fan base. I don't know. I haven't looked, but he's doing that.
But that was funny in this article from LeBron. He was like, well, Colorado would be interested too, but like, come on.
LeBron is a Montreal Canadiens fan. Like, there's no,
and that's an aspect of this that I also can't shake, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into your feelings about this. Because I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm just saying that when I whisper Sidney Crosby, that there is a kernel of possibility in it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. First of all, I think all agents should shut up. I don't think agents should talk. I think if I was a hockey player and I had an agent who went to the media with something like this, the next day I would have a new agent. I don't understand if Sidney Crosby isn't talking about this to his agent and told his agent, I'm really cool with you going public about this, which doesn't sound like anything he would do, then what is Pat Brisson doing? Like, I understand kind of where Pittsburgh Penguins fans are getting upset here, because it's like everyone is talking about this except for the player.
Yeah.
And the agent has the agent's best interest in mind. Like, let's be honest about this. He even says, like, if it was up to me, he'd be in the playoffs every year.
Yes. Yeah. And it was very irresponsible, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think it's really funny because, there's one agent that's really famous, right? And that's Alan Walsh. And why do we know? Because he won't shut up. Why do we know who he is? Because he never stops talking about his clients, right? And to date, Pat Brisson has not been this kind of person.
No, Pat Brisson is pretty, reserved in the media and doesn't really come out and say too much. I will say from the Pierre LeBrun perspective in all of this, insiders across the sport are very reserved about what they say. They're very comfortable. What's the word? They're very concerned with the words that they use. They're very conservative with the words that they use. He doesn't come outward in here and say Crosby wants to leave, because he doesn't have that. And I think if this is true that Crosby does want to leave, again, a massive if, it would best serve Pierre LeBrun to not come out and say that right now. It would best serve any insider who had this information to let Crosby be the one to do that, and do that with him. Come to Pierre LeBrun with that story. Come to Pat Brisson with that story, and then come to Pierre LeBrun. I think Pierre knows something. I don't think he writes this and has this angle after a summer of not talking about it without having something. And
it dates back all the way to the Four Nations, right?
Sure, but if there is nothing, what are we doing? Like, I would love to see Sidney Crosby in the Canadiens jersey. Again, I've said many times, North America would run out of red fabric, and that would really just be in my apartment. I would have so many Sidney Crosby jerseys. I would use them as bath towels. I would just use that. There would be too many of them. But I I'm still so confused with this. Like, I think a lot of, and I Pittsburgh fans, if you're listening to this, because I bet you saw this and you're looking for something. I do think a lot of this, almost all of this, is media driven at this point. It's a early September story that Montreal and Pittsburgh fans are all going to click on. Two pretty big, but Montreal's a massive market. Pittsburgh also a very dedicated hockey market. Like, I don't see it as much more than that until we have more information, which right now we don't. So that is my stance on this. Until we learn more, this is a nothing burger to me.
Do you know what the more is that we need to learn?
How
bad Pittsburgh can be this season and how good Montreal can be this season.
Well,
and Colorado.
And that's what Pierre or Pat Brisson's one of the things he says. Hopefully, they have a great season and the speculation will go away. I think he knows that they're not going to have a great season. They were the only team trying to be worse this summer, and everybody knew it.
Yes, and it's going to continue, right?
Yeah,
they were the only other contender for Price's contract. Why? For that flexibility. So, I think it's really interesting to see how this plays out. I just think like LeBrun had a lot of fun. I think LeBrun had like 700 times the amount of fun writing about Sidney Crosby as I always do on this podcast talking about Sidney Crosby. I think like that's what happened there, and I love it. And you know what? We're gonna keep speculating until he retires, right? Yep. Until the moment Sidney Crosby retires, we're gonna keep speculating because he grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan. I know his heart is here. I know it. All right. Up next, we are going to go to somebody who actually was a Montreal Canadian. And we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens finally honoring Andrei Markov like he deserves this upcoming season. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. How often do you look at your finances and not understand what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments? And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I'm at the point in my life right now where I need to figure out what my wealth is and what I spend on, how to build that wealth, how to save. And so for me, Monarch Money came in really handy because the first thing it did was it showed me all those little incidentals that I was wasting so much money on. And I have to admit, I haven't built my wealth yet, but Monarch is going to be my best friend along the way. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, again in your browser, with code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, so today I will say at the time that we're recording this, the Montreal Canadiens draft video has been released. We just aren't going to talk about it to give everyone a chance to watch it and catch up on it. And we're going to get into it in our next episode. Anything that's really cool or, the little details and all of that. So we're going to get into that in our next episode. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Markov. Ian, when I say to you, Andrei Markov, what is the first image that comes to mind?
First image, I think I think he scored a goal in a shootout, I believe, against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yes. That was...
he's celebrating. He gets really low to the ice and puts his hands in front of him. It was a really weird celebration, but it was so Andrei Markov because I just don't think he expected to be in that situation. And I think this is well, do you have the same image?
Is that the one that comes to mind?
That's so funny. That's such a niche image, and we both had the same one. We didn't talk about this beforehand, like with most things. That's very funny.
Yes, Markov is a piece of Canadiens lore, but he's much more than that. I think for very many years, because he doesn't have that personality, that, gregarious personality, he wasn't somebody who was generally put in front of the cameras for good reason. He was shy, he wasn't super, or we found out later he had a much better command of the English language than he pretended. But he wasn't into being in front of the cameras, so he wasn't, right? And so he wasn't in our face, and the things that he did were not flashy. but he was, for a long period of time, one of the only true good Montreal defensemen, right? And
Yeah.
he made so many people look good. He made Mike Komisarek rich, right?
he made many of the defensemen he played with rich.
Yes.
It was Komisarek, Sheldon Surrey, who had an elite talent set of his own. But it was so funny watching, like, Sheldon Surrey left. Oh no, what are the Canadians going to do? Don't worry, Mike Komisarek's here. Oh no, Mike Komisarek leaves. Oh no, what are the Canadians going to do? Don't worry, Mark Streit's here. Oh no, Mark Streit leaves. Oh no, what are the Canadians going to do? Oh yeah, that Markov guy has been here the whole time. Like, I always found that to be really funny that these guys kept coming and going around him. A lot of very talented players when they were in Montreal. Like Mark Streit was a really good Montreal Canadian. Mike Komisarek, not an analytics darling by any stretch, but he was incredibly effective in that contract year. And then he screwed over the Toronto Maple Leafs. So an eternal Montreal Canadian in that respect. Sheldon Surrey, like he's still, it's my favorite stat. He's the Canadians all-time single season power play goal by a defenseman leader. Like that, and I think he had 18. Like, I don't know that that's going
I
anywhere.
want to say it's 19. It was a trivia question you asked us.
Yeah, long time ago. Yeah, it was probably one of the first ones because it's one of my favorite. I don't remember the number. I just remember that he has it, and I don't
It's
think
either
anyone will
18
ever
or
take that
19.
from him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's either 18
it
or
was
19.
one of those. But yeah, Markov to me was like, you know, he was never going to win a Norris just because of the. He wasn't a Lidstrom playing in a time when Lidstrom was playing. He wasn't a Carlson. He wasn't a Weber. Like, he was Andrei Markov, but he was perfectly suited for the market because I think I think it was maybe it was Arpon Basu who made this comparison that, like, Yoel Armia kind of acted with the media in Montreal a lot like Andrei Markov did. And it suits their personality, but it also helped them survive in this market when things got tough. I always found the way that he handled himself to be very, professional, very much fitting of a Montreal Canadian. Like, he wasn't,
Yes.
outwardly brash. It wasn't what he was known for. Him and Thomas Plekanec were very similar in that way.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like Plekanec showed a lot more of his personality, and I think maybe that's why that goal celebration sticks with us, because it's one of the
Yeah.
rare times we saw Markov's personality. But to me, like, the way that he carried himself, I always felt that we know the Canadians have exposure to the alumni, right? Like, we know they got to talk to them. We know they spent a lot of time with them, whether it was for charity or even just at the Bell Center before games, after games. And I feel like what Markov did was he kind of absorbed that energy and emulated that, right? Like the guys like Jean Beliveau, right? Like the people who understood the weight of being a Montreal Canadian, even if the team wasn't good, doesn't mean that you don't have to embody that quality. And I think that's partly why we loved him. And I also think that's partly why we love the players of today, right?
Yeah.
Because they take it seriously.
Yeah, for sure. I think, was it him or was it Plekanec? I believe it was Markov who was at one point offered the captaincy, and he was like, "Nah, not for me."
I'm fairly certain it was him.
Yeah, and again, that's a player who understands what his limit is, right? Like, he can exist and be a star in the market in that one capacity. I would rather a player turn down the captaincy than demand it and not be, ready for it, or be given it and not be ready for it. The
And
guy I
not rise
always
to the
point to,
occasion.
yeah, the one I always point to is Max Pacioretty. Like, he was an incredible hockey player, and he was uniquely unqualified to be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, it didn't work. Markov knew he wasn't going to be that and decided that's not for me. Go find someone else. I
Yeah.
just think, like, you think of all the partners he had in his time. We didn't even mention PK Subban or Shea Weber.
I was gonna say PK Subban in a second. I feel like he tempered PK Subban a lot. I feel like they
Yeah.
complemented each other so well.
Yeah, like, that was a perfect defense pair in that, if you're going by, like, NHL 06 chemistry, if you're going by, like, personality chemistry, you have the quiet, reserved one and the loud, in your face one. Like, they were perfect in that. The other image I have is of PK kissing his head. That was another really strong image of that era of the Canadians.
I love that. I truly like Markov brings me joy. And we haven't even gotten to the point where they're going to honor him. So we don't know exactly what they're going to do. It's the Montreal Canadiens. And, like, honor him could mean anything, really. Like, they're really good at celebration. But what I really appreciate is them bringing him back into the fold, right? Like, he was just kind of allowed to disappear, allowed to fade away. 10 games away from 1,000 games, right? 1,000 games as a Hab. He was just kind of allowed to just fade into the background, and that never sat right with me, because just because he was quiet does not mean we should be quiet about him.
Do you think they will have a Markov bobblehead of him doing the celebration against the Penguins? And
I
how much would you give to? I know you're a bobblehead person. How much
I
would
am
you
a
give
huge
to get that
bobblehead.
bobblehead?
I would honestly, like, I would run over someone's grandma. No, do not print that. Don't tell people I said that. It's not true. I would never do that.
You heard it here first, folks. Laura Sabu would sacrifice your elders for a bobblehead.
No, but you know what? If they do, I don't think they would, though, because they've already announced their bobbleheads, and Markov wasn't one of them. They just said they were going to honor him. If I hear about a bobblehead, though, you best believe it. I'm going to have my butt in my seat, in that seat at 3 p.m. so I can get that bobblehead.
Yeah, that, and just as a reminder, that is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025 at 7:30 against the Winnipeg Jets. So that'll be a fun one. There's the Canadians released their whole fun nights schedule. We'll probably cover that later this week and give you guys the the ins and outs on which ones those are. But yes, December 3rd, be there, or at least be viewing it to see Andrei Markov celebrated at the Bell Center.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Now, up next, the rookie camp rosters were announced. They are reporting to physicals as you're listening to this, and we haven't talked about it yet. So we're going to get into that and talk about what to watch up next. But first, this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right. To me, the start of NHL season is when the Montreal Canadiens have their golf tournament. But you know what? Rookie camp counts too. There's two games coming up before the golf tournament even happens. And it is the rookie showcase in which Ivan Demidov, NHL star already, is expected to play. So, Ian, can I ask, what are you most excited about? Is it just the fact that they exist? Like, we're getting close to the season.
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that they're there. First of all, I'm shocked. I'm kind of surprised to see Demidov there. Obviously, he should be there. He's a rookie, but just knowing the expectations we have on him, it's kind of crazy he's playing in this. It is also criminal that Owen Beck is playing in this rookie camp and presumably the rookie showcase at the end of the week. Owen Beck made his NHL debut in January of 2023. There's no reason he should be in a rookie camp. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, yes, that was an emergency basis, but he played in the NHL 2 years ago. Why is he at this rookie camp? I'm shocked. It shouldn't be happening. Let him enjoy the last couple weeks of his summer.
I feel like, obviously it's the same thing as Lane Hudson last year, right? Like, it was partly because they want to sell tickets, and they need he's technically a rookie, so that's okay. I feel like Owen Beck is one of those guys where it's like, we need a recognizable name, and they're kind of sending him a message saying you're still growing, but to me there weren't really any surprises on this list. I don't know if there were for you, other than the fact that obviously Owen Beck is still there. He technically is an NHL rookie though.
Yeah, no, he is. There's no doubt to that. It is still odd because he's very likely to win the Calder, and we kind of already know that already. It's odd. I will say I'm a little disappointed to not see Zurowski. I kind of understand why that is. Given the state of the world and whether or not he can get over here. That would have been kind of nice to see. But I think what I'm looking at is some of the guys who have been around a little bit to show that that this level of play is beneath them. It would go a long way for a guy like Oliver Kapanen. It would go a long way for a guy like Owen Beck or a guy like Philip Mashar,
Or
Adam
Adam Engstrom.
Engstrom.
Yeah.
Adam Engstrom. Yeah, exactly. He should not struggle in this. I'm kind of excited to see some of the guys that they picked in this year's draft. Bryce Pickford, especially. That's a guy who I think is a real boom or bust. He's either going to be an incredible NHL defenseman or not playable. Like that, those are the, like, especially if you've watched the draft video, which I have, and we'll talk about in tomorrow's episode. What Bob Ruff has to say about Bryce Pickford is kind of like, yeesh. Like that's not. I don't really love that player profile, but like you understand why they fell in love with a player like that. So I'm interested to see, especially how a violent man like that can control himself in a rookie tournament, at least for these intra-squad games, but maybe for the Ottawa game.
Like, especially with like Tyler Thorpe there and Owen Protz there, who we saw Tyler Thorpe last year, and we were pretty impressed with him in the showcase, right?
Yeah.
Like we liked him. And we also talked a lot about Owen Protz, like in whenever May in the spring. But I'm excited for the violent baby gentleman. Is that what we call them now? Florian Xhekaj's there.
I was going to say the Ottawa Senators cannot escape a Xhekaj in a rookie tournament game ever. They're going to start inventing new Xhekajs. Like they're just going to keep pumping out new ones so that Ottawa has somebody to fight in those opening games.
There will be new Xhekajs. There will always be a Xhekaj haunting the Ottawa Senators, and it doesn't matter where these two guys end up playing. The brothers end up playing. If the Montreal Canadiens trade them all the way to San Jose or trade them to another league in Europe, they will still haunt the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. What should the next Xhekaj be named? While we're on the subject, like the two brothers already have some of the most powerful names.
Yes, Arbor and Florian. Like going with that, shouldn't it be like some sort of like medieval knight name, right?
Just name him Zeus. Zeus Xhekaj. That's the new one. Babe, wake up! New Xhekaj just dropped. Okay, I promise we're done with that bit. We don't have to do that anymore.
All right. So last year in the rookie showcase, and again, it was a showcase. It was like I went there because one of our lovely listeners was not able to go and sent me their tickets, and I'm still appreciative of that. And so my friend and I were just there being like, Lane Hudson is so good. That's all we did. Like we went there to see a hockey game, and all we did was that. So obviously with Ivan Demidov, that's going to be a thing. But another thing that we noted was in that game, we saw that Owen Beck and at the time Logan Mailloux seemed to be putting a lot of pressure on themselves to perform in an essentially meaningless game. So what do you think about that? Like, I feel like that's going to be Mashar this time around.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me, right? Like we're entering a point where it's really make or break for Phil Mashar, because not only, it's not like he's running out of time to make the NHL, but he is running out of time to make a positive impression on the Canadiens and make the Canadiens think he's a part of their future in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
And he's entering a time where the Canadiens are going to start, not immediately, but eventually going to start trading futures for players now, and you might be on the outside of that, looking in. He also, I think, he has to be up for a new contract at some point, in the near future. So you gotta start making good on your draft promise.
Absolutely. So listeners, the players are reporting for physicals. They're going to have a couple of days. And then on Saturday and Sunday, there's going to be some rookie showcase games. The Canadiens golf tournament is on Monday, and it's a whole, it's a whole new season at that point. But please let us know if you're excited, if any of you are going to the rookie showcase, what you're excited to see other than Ivan Demidov, which we all are, I think. Please let us know if you're not excited to see him. I'd like to see who that is. I'd like to know how you were, what makes you tick. In the meantime, we will talk about the draft video and more things in tomorrow's episode. As you know, we're back to 5 days a week starting this week. So make sure you are subscribed to this podcast wherever you get podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And please find us all over social media. We are posting at Instagram at Locked On Canadiens, on Blue Sky at Locked On Canadians, on TikTok at Locked On Canadians. You can get in touch with us, all of those mediums, but you can also email us at lockedoncanadians@gmail.com. Send us stuff. If, like you saw, we had a picture today. If you have pictures or stories you want to share with our listeners, please do that as well. You can find my co-host all over social media at Maybe It's Ian. You'll find me at The Active Stick. We want to thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next time.